Welcome to The Growth Equation. This isn't your typical business podcast. We're keeping it real about the challenges of scaling up, period. I'm Tristan Wright and I've been there. I've built and scaled my own business. I've sold it. I've learned a ton along the way. Now I'm bringing you the no BS stories of founders who are in the trenches right now, navigating that messy middle. We're talking advertising, marketing, design, creative, branding, the whole 9 yards. Doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or running a team of 100. Everyone's got a secret sauce, that thing that makes them different, better. We're going to uncover it. So grab a coffee and let's get real. Today we're talking to Adrian from Scale Messaging. Adrian, welcome.
Thank you, Tristan.
Looking forward to chatting with you. What people probably don't know is that we worked together how many years ago? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
Many moons ago. Before? I think it was just before COVID started, or it was at the beginning of COVID. I think it was 2020.
When did you move to? So everyone, Adrian's currently in Colombia. When we were working together, he had just moved to Perth from Sydney.
Correct.
Maybe I'll get you to share your journey.
It's quite a journey. I'll try and give the abridged version. Yeah, starting from there. So very, very briefly, my first foray into working for myself was I moved to Berlin I didn't really have much of a plan. My girlfriend at the time lived there, so I went there. I just read the 4-hour work week and was like, yeah, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to freelance, and I actually managed to negotiate with the agency that I was working with at the time that I could still work with them after I left. And I was stoked. And then after I got there, within a month, the agency went bankrupt. So I was anyway, so I was living in Berlin. That's when I started having freelancing, and I started trying everything, just trying to do email marketing or cold emailing people. I managed to get some strategy projects on Upwork, but the problem is that strategy is very one-off. So, the clients are happy, but then it's we don't need you anymore. Then I started writing and essentially became freelance copywriter. I'd always loved writing, and that was sustaining me while I lived in Berlin, which was great. That was my first taste of working for myself, and I loved it. I couldn't go back. Eventually, I moved back to Australia, and as it turns out, you can't live in Australia on the amount of money you could in Berlin.
Interesting.
It was Berlin was very cheap back then anyway, not so much now. So yeah, I was at my parents' and I was like, I need to get a job or something, and then managed to land a great job at an agency called Step Change. I kind of bypassed the whole hiring process by sending them a custom made video with a rap in it, which somehow
with a rap in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a rapper, or I was in the past more. Anyway, so that was very bold, but it somehow worked. And yeah, so I worked with them for 3 years, I think it was, and got a lot of experience there. Really loved working there, but was still doing writing on the side. And then I moved to Perth, and similar thing where I'd negotiated a thing with Step Change, and then the agency also didn't go completely bankrupt, but they had a complete downsize and then reboot. So that ended, and then I fortunately managed to sort things out. Was doing brand strategies, brand messaging, bit of copywriting, and that's about the time that I met you.
Yeah.
Then about a year after that, I ended up joining forces with my now business partner, Will, in Scale Messaging.
And okay, so Scale Messaging 2021, whatever that is. Tell us about that business and what that looks like.
So Scale Messaging, basically we help do mid-market direct-to-consumer e-commerce businesses improve their website conversion rates. Essentially working out why people aren't buying on the website, and then we come up with hypotheses, and then we create alternate versions of the pages, and then we validate it through A/B tests. So it's very data-led messaging, human behavior insights-led. And yeah, we've been doing that for just over 4 years now. So this has been quite a journey, and we've definitely grown a lot in that time. I think back to where we were at the beginning and how we approach things versus now, and turns out I'm an actual business owner.
Yeah. I remember when we were first working together, and you had, I'll put it nicely, had no idea how to manage the money or predict the money or plan your week even. So we spent time doing the 101 stuff together?
I was winging it. I could do the work. I think that was the difference for me is like I knew how to be the practitioner or, the writer or the whatever, at that stage I was still doing a bit of strategy, but it was my default mode is very flowy, should we say, not super organized. I'm more of a creative at heart. So things are all a bit over the place. And yeah, when we work together, you help me just put more structure in place and get a sense of, even though it's just you doing the business, there's still different roles that you have to do in the business. And that really stuck with me. And yeah, especially the financials, that became a habit that I've kept since then. Started with the business and then I brought it into Scale and then expanded and developed it and then started doing it for my personal finances. I have a weekly ritual where I go through all the financials, and the great thing about that is we haven't had any surprises since I started doing it. So that's the best thing about it.
It's about consistency. It might not be the most enjoyable thing, but at the end of the day, as a business owner, you need to know your numbers to be able to take it where you want the business to go.
It's like, for me, it's the weekly reality check, just where everything is. It's like seeing, okay, what needs to be invoiced, what's being paid, track, what are we spending money on, ensuring that money's getting aside for tax and super and all those things, and putting things in different buckets just to make sure that, I said we don't have surprises. I would say that we don't have as many financial surprises. There's always surprises in business, but the unexpected costs we haven't accounted for are not one of them anymore.
Yeah. When you say there's always surprises, what sort of surprises have you had?
Just client things, like clients will drop out of nowhere, like drop out, everything's going well because it's like a new marketing director's joined, for example. Or, and that maybe that happens for like suddenly one leaves and then at the same time, like two others leave, not because of the quality of the work. It's like, that's why it's unexpected, because the results are good, but they've just had like a change of direction. They want to invest their money somewhere else. And, so I think over time, like when that stuff happens at the beginning of being in business, it affected me a lot more. Like, there's a lot more like, oh no, and what are we going to do and why and blah, blah, blah. And over time, it's just, business is just like a cycle of this, but hopefully that is trending upwards.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a stock market graph, it's always doing this, but you hope that it trends up, that it trends upwards. So, and I feel as well, after dealing with things more times, you have confidence that you're going to be able to figure it out regardless.
Yeah, like you've been able to figure it out previously. It might be a different iteration. Like you've got evidence that you've been in business for a while. So you've been able to sort out other things. So you should be able to keep progressing and moving forward.
Yeah, precisely. You're always solving problems. Hopefully you're not solving the same problems.
That's a definition of insanity. Because if you're trying to solve the same problems over and over again and expecting different results. So today, is it just you and your business partner, freelancers? What does it look like today?
I know we got a small team. So it's Will and myself. So we're both co-founders of the business. We split the work in terms of client relationships evenly. So I think after talking to a lot of other people and business owners who've had issues with business partners, I've picked up that I think the way that we have it set up makes it much better, because we both do the core deliverable and we handle that evenly. Whereas like I find in some business partners, say one person does operations and the others like sales, for example, and it usually feels like there becomes an asymmetry and some resentment there because the responsibilities aren't always even in terms of workload. But yeah, so Will and I do like the strategy, the ideation, the messaging, the thinking as the core. And then I handle more like the sales side, at administration, finance side. And then Will does more like the technical side, like dev and marketing and a little bit of the team management. And then we have, like a developer or two developers and a UX designer and like an admin person. And they're kind of across the world.
Yeah, nice. So when you say across the world, Colombia, Philippines,
Portugal,
interesting,
Australia.
So how do you manage a team across so many different time zones?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. The benefit with what we do with our team is that we don't really need meetings. So we've built a system where we don't have calls with our our team. And they, to be honest, they like the fact that they don't have to be available for calls. Very occasionally we'll have a chat, but if there's something that needs to be discussed in a conversation, but for the most part, we use like Google Chat for everything. Each client has its own chat. We've got emails. We use Asana. We've got kind of certain times we know that are crossover times with workflow. And then that being said, it can be a challenge because if those crossover hours get missed, like in terms of feedback on something and then client delays, and then we can like miss
miss
extra.
A full day.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately that's kind of just, it's part and parcel of it, but we manage it pretty well. I think like, it's not often that's the cause of delays. Everyone's pretty good and consistent with that.
How have you found going from being a one-man band to having 5, 6, 7 staff? Like, what have you had to learn or upskill yourself in?
That's a good question. I definitely think Will was a bigger driver and better at the hiring approach and like being aware of hiring for things and understanding. I mean, especially because it was more like the devs that were the first hires, so they were things that he was closer to. But I think the biggest thing we did was we built pretty solid processes before we had the team. So we thought through what we needed these people to do so that even if we didn't have that specific person, it would still work. That being said, our tech lead, he's got there's probably a lot of things that he can do now that would be a bit harder to replace because a lot of like very nuanced specifics, but the core workflow, that definitely was an important thing for us to implement. I'd say the other thing for me is just the sense of responsibility. Like in the past, I felt more like, if I didn't want to work for 2 weeks, I didn't have to. Like I knew that I wouldn't make money, but like I could maybe push hard and get some projects later and that would tide me over for a bit. But now it's like, there's more responsibility. It's like a marriage in a way. Like Will and I actually was the best. I went back to to Perth, beginning of the year, and I was the best man at his wedding.
So he's still living in Perth? He's
still in Perth. So,
yep.
Yeah. So time zones are tricky. We have very limited window, especially with Perth. But we have a weekly call, and then basically the way it works is like basically each of us wake up to a bunch of messages from the other person, and that was part because in my best man speech, part of what I said was like, some people think Will's getting married for the first time, but he's not. He's been married to me already. We wake up to, from cute text to each other, like, email sent, review today, client meeting on Tuesday. So, yeah.
Yeah. So he got practice with you.
Exactly. But, in some ways, probably not quite the same. I hope it's not the same.
So you're in Colombia now. So when did you decide to move across to Colombia? So you've gone Australia, Germany, back to Australia, moved across the country. Now you're in Colombia.
Yeah, I think you can start getting a sense of the sort of person I am based on my movements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like change. I like travel. I've always found that those big moves that I've done have been the biggest growth areas of my life because, you're uncomfortable. You go somewhere, you don't know anyone, especially when it's a different language, different culture. It makes you uncomfortable and you adapt to that, and then your comfort zone grows. And I feel like I'm a much better person for the things that I've done and have traveled and gone to different places. So in terms of the more recent trip, basically, like I went to Colombia for a month in 2023. And it just sort of like, there was something planted actually by a girl that I met who is now my girlfriend. But that's besides the point, or maybe part of the point. But anyway, she's like, oh, you have the ability to work anywhere in the world. Like you've got this business where you can work remotely. Why are you in Perth? Like, why don't you travel? And I was like, it's actually a really good point. I just got comfortable in Perth. And so I kind of, at that stage, I was getting a bit over Perth. Like, I think it's a great place to settle down. But I wasn't really wanting to do that there at that stage. So I was like, man, if I'm not going to do it now, I won't do it. So I just kind of packed up, sold all my stuff and had a flight to Mexico City. And that was about it. Then I just was going to go through Latin America and see what happened, and ended up meeting up with Catalina, who's my girlfriend now, but back then not. And things went really well. And I loved Medellin. I met a lot of cool people here and did a bit more travel, but decided that for now I'm staying here. But yeah, that being said, in October, I'm traveling for 4 months, back to Australia, to some other places, still working, but yeah, taking advantage of the freedom and flexibility that we've built into the business.
Yeah, nice. And I guess that's one of the benefits of being a business owner is that you're able to control or your destiny a bit more, like where you work, how you work. But on that point, so many people get stuck in the grind running the business and letting the business run them. How did you switch? And I think you just explained it to an extent from letting the business and life run you to you running life and you running business.
It's a good question. I don't think there's a simple answer to it, except I think what happens is we get very comfortable doing what we're doing, and the power of inertia is very strong. And we're like, so let's say you're in the same location and you have a habit and a routine and you just kind of keep doing it and doing it. And that, I think it's like a groove. And the more that, or the path, and the more you go over that path, the deeper it gets. And then after a while, it's harder to get out, which is part of the reason why I like to make those changes, because you don't allow yourself to get too deeply rooted in one way of thinking or one way of behavior. But I think the other part of it is just, you just have to decide what you want. Like for me, when starting the business, I knew that, or even before the business, like location independence, financial independence were always the main goals. How I got there was, we'll figure that out. But I knew that I didn't want to be stuck in any location. I wanted to be able to work anywhere in the world, anywhere that I was. And it's been very beneficial, because even during COVID, for example, when Australia was divided and locked down, and I went back to Sydney to visit my family, like I could go for a month and I work. And I mean, that was also kind of when remote work just started. But before that, remote work wasn't super common. But yeah, it means that I know all I need is internet connection, table, comfortable chair, and I can work. There's a few more parameters in order to be able to work comfortably and effectively for a longer period. But so yeah, I think to answer your question, like you just got to decide what you want from the business, and
having clear expectations of clear goals. So rather than just floating along, what I took from it is that you were very clear on what you want to achieve.
Yeah, like to be honest, we think that there's a tendency when people start a business of like almost like a feeling of pressure that I need to try and grow this as big as it can be. And I feel some people often push down that path without considering the implications of that and whether that's actually aligned with what they want. Because yeah, we could grow this. I mean, maybe, I guess we could grow this to be like a very big agency, but it would be all consuming. The amount of effort and work I'd have to put in for a certain amount of time is probably more than I actually would want to do. Because for me, like I enjoy the work, I enjoy the business, but I also enjoy it for the lifestyle that it affords me. So I can have some time still to make music or write or travel and take a day off here or there when I want to. You can never switch off completely for a long period of time. That's probably or not never. That might be another phase or a level I haven't quite reached. Rather than extended time off, I have more of an inbuilt flexibility day to day that I can take advantage of. And that's also by design.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're working in a day job, you don't have that flexibility because you're stuck there. So yeah, you've built and designed your business and your role to suit your lifestyle.
And I think it comes down as well to values. You need to understand what you value and what's important to you. For me, after doing an exercise on that, years ago, but I've done it again recently, like freedom is the number one thing that kept coming up, manifested in different forms and different iterations. But I realized it's freedom. And it's not freedom meaning I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, but it's like freedom to choose my own responsibilities, freedom to decide. I don't have to be freedom to influence the outcomes of things. One thing that frustrated me in past jobs is like, I'd see problems that I wanted to be able to fix, but it's like, oh, that's not your responsibility. And it's like, well, that's the thing that needs to be fixed in order for me to do what I need to do. So I think that was always a frustrating limitation where it's like, this is what's going to help improve everything, but I can't influence it. Whereas when it's your own business, if you don't work at it, then no one else is. Not, you don't have to do it yourself, but like, I know that all of the upsides and all of the downsides it's up to me and Will to figure it out in some way.
Yeah, totally. Where do you see scale messaging going in the next 3 to 5 years?
I would say I think we could double the business in terms of current like trajectory, and hire another strategist. Like essentially the bottleneck has been hiring someone to do what Will and I do. So we are not the bottleneck, basically. We had hoped we'd like spend a lot of time trying to systemize our thinking with the hope that we could like create some sort of either like an AI that might be able to do it, or like have someone more junior, but we've got like a playbook that would work. But the longer I've done this, the more I'm like, there's just too many variables in what we do that it's so hard. That's why I feel CROs isn't going to be taken over by AI as quickly, I don't think.
Technology, AI, automation, what's that going to do for the industry?
I mean, if we focus on the industry, I've definitely perspectives more broadly, but I mean, it's a very powerful tool, and it's the way that we're using it now is, I mean, there's a few different ways. I think one thing it's very effective at is just speeding up manual tasks, or I mean, for example, like analyzing data, putting numbers in there and just being able to. So one thing we've actually been doing is using Notebook LM by Google, which isn't as common, or not as many people know about it, but I think it's very powerful.
People know about it.
So we're kind of using it we have like all of the relevant documents in a particular folder for, say, a project, and we can just query that to ask because it's not like ChatGPT where it like reasons and invents things. It just kind of tells you what's in the documents you've provided and gives some connections between it. So that's very helpful, because we have like a lot of different data points across a lot of different clients, and sometimes it's hard to stay across everything. In terms of how it will affect the industry, I feel there will be like AI testing, like coming out rapidly iterating different variables, kind of like they with the programmatic advertising and, the algorithms they have for Facebook and things like that, where the algorithm just kind of keeps testing things. I feel that is probably going to happen, but it will start at the enterprise level businesses with a lot of volume of traffic, because there needs to be enough volume for anything to be significant. So the lower to mid market of e-com, they just don't have enough transactions to test a lot of the time, which is a challenge, because it's like the vast majority of e-com, direct to consumer e-com, they're just kind of starting out to mid-level. They haven't cracked it, which means they can't test because they don't have enough volume to get any statistical significance in the data, but they need a lot of help. But they often don't have the revenue to invest, and they also can't validate it. So, but that's a whole separate story.
That's a different story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So AI automation technology will change the way, but it will change at the top end of business first.
I mean, that's my take. I think that's one angle on it. I feel there's going to be a lot of different ways it will be implemented within existing tools. I think some of the testing tools will probably find ways to integrate it. I think a natural use of it, which I wish there was more of, is like, say, something like an AI, a good quality AI within Google Analytics or something, or having AI in the analytics tool would be insanely good, where it's like, instead of just having to manually read the report, I can do that, but I can query to ask questions and it will go and look at all the different data points and tell me. That would be very helpful for workflow, but I think that's quite difficult, because I've explored some of this in a bit of vibe coding frenzy and ran into the reality of the complexity, where it's like there's so many variables of data, because let's say conversion rate, then there's, let's say, conversion rate to key metric, so purchase conversion rate. Then there's revenue per visitor. Another one would be like AOV, average order value or something. That's just on one page. That's a bit weird.
Just a thumbs up.
Yeah, I just validated my own thing. But then that's also, that cuts into different segments of, is it mobile or desktop, or is it cut by different browsers or traffic source? And each layer of complexity becomes, and then when you're testing, you have like at least 2 variants for that data with different devices. Often we're running 3 variants in a test. So you number one, you got a lot of data that you got to query, but also you need the AI to know what to look for and which data fields. Anyway, this is way too specific for this shit, for this audience, so I'll stop.
Yeah, so where you're going is AI has definitely got a way to go to be more beneficial at your level other than just the basic?
No, I think it's beneficial at the moment for sure. It's a matter of people working out how to incorporate it into their workflows. There will definitely be businesses who work out a way to integrate it within their existing solutions, and potentially ones who can come up with something bigger and more groundbreaking. But in terms of like AI replacing CRO strategists and CRO thinking, it's going to happen at some stage, I'm sure of it, because the AI will keep advancing, compute power increases. But I think it will be, in short, the more variables there are in the data that need to be considered, the more computing power is needed to take into account all those variables and have the right reasoning to make sense of it. And there's a lot in this field.
Yeah, there's a lot of big data. Adrian, it's been a pleasure talking. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way to connect?
You can hit me on LinkedIn. So Adrian J. Stewart, J, the letter J, or you can go to scalemessaging.com and then you can contact us through there. So especially if you're like direct to consumer e-com business, or we also work with like kind of high volume lead gen businesses too. So happy to reach out, or if you just want to chat, if you want to hear me rant about AI, you're more than welcome to reach out.
Awesome, mate. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Tristan.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into The Growth Equation. If you've enjoyed the show, hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It helps us big time. Catch you next time. And if you want more, head over to evolvetogrow.com.au for show notes and exclusive content.